I attended the prestigious USC, a considerable distance from my home state, which necessitated my stay in the campus dorms. Each night would unfailingly conclude in a ritualistic fashion. I'd diligently complete class assignments or engage in video editing tasks, often for YouTubers or young Instagram enthusiasts who sought my assistance. The nightly rhythm was almost meditative in its predictability, a comforting routine in an unfamiliar place. However, one fateful night would etch itself into my memory, never to be forgotten. As I stood under the warm cascade of the shower, my senses went on high alert. The sudden creak of my front door, a familiar yet unexpected sound, interrupted the gentle hiss of the water. I swiftly silenced the shower and strained to listen, the air thick with tension. Silence greeted me, a profound stillness that was profoundly unsettling. My phone rested on the sink, its luminescent screen a lifeline to the outside world. Swiftly, I dialed one of my friends, the digital tones ringing hollow in the tiny bathroom. He answered, his voice heavy with weariness, as if reluctant to leave the comfort of his own space. However, as soon as my anxious words described the eerie occurrence, it was as though a switch had been flipped. Suddenly alert and concerned, my friend leaped into action, retrieving clothes before returning to our phone conversation. The eerie quiet was punctuated by an ominous crash, a resonating clang that reverberated through the room. It was an unsettling noise, for it resembled the sound of metal striking something hard. I puzzled over this as I relayed the incident to my friend. He took the situation seriously, his voice laced with determination. As we spoke, the ominous footsteps of a hurried sprinter echoed down the hallway. It was my friend, rushing to my aid. I hastily dried myself, threw on my clothes, and received a text from my approaching friend. He confirmed his arrival, adding a chilling detail. My door stood wide open, and he could hear ominous, labored breathing from within. I replied with a plan. Throw the door open, and I'll step out as soon as I hear it hit the wall. My heart pounded in anticipation as I prepared to execute this strategy. With trembling hand on the doorknob, I listened intently. The anticipated crash of the door against the wall signaled my cue. I flung the door open, ready to confront the unknown. But as the door swung wide, an unsettling sight greeted me. An empty, undisturbed room. My friend, equally baffled, scanned the dorm for any sign of intrusion. It was as if an eerie calm had descended upon the room. With a sense of foreboding lingering, we made our way cautiously to my friend's room and opted to spend the night there, sharing our bewildering experience. The following morning, we summoned the courage to revisit my room. As we cautiously pushed the door open, the bizarre ordeal took a macabre twist. My once pristine room bore the signs of chaos. Pillows and blankets lay strewn across the floor, and inexplicable scratches marred the walls. The room's condition bore no resemblance to the orderly sanctuary I had known. Concerned and perplexed, we contacted campus security. Our encounter with the security personnel was far from reassuring. Initially skeptical, they seemed convinced that this was some elaborate prank we had orchestrated. However, after our impassioned recounting, they eventually relented, agreeing to investigate further. In an odd turn of events, they decided to summon a team of local ghost hunters. The arrival of these purported experts proved to be of disappointment. Their lack of professionalism was glaring, and their methods appeared amateurish at best. Despite their efforts, no evidence was unearthed, and our bewildering encounter remained unexplained. To this day, my friend and I are haunted by the inexplicable events that unfolded in dorm room 327 at USC. The scratches on the wall and the disarray of my belongings serve as a chilling reminder that some mysteries defy explanation. My college roommate during our freshman year was a bundle of nerves when it came to our upcoming dormitory living situation. It's understandable, really. Moving in with a complete stranger can be quite daunting. His anxiety wasn't helped by the countless dorm room horror stories he'd been hearing. Tales of crazy, messy, or downright terrifying roommates. Among these stories, one had particularly unnerved him. It was about a friend of his who had woken up in the dead of night to find his otherwise quiet, reserved, and brooding roommate standing over him with a knife. And then there was me, an unassuming, not particularly tall or threatening, and talkative guy. I was the very definition of an average roommate. There was, however, one not-so-average thing about me. I was a sleep talker and mover. It's not that I talked a lot during my sleep, but I made noises, whistled, sang, and did all sorts of things. It hadn't even occurred to me to mention this peculiar trait to my new roommate. On our very first night together, he hadn't been able to fall asleep yet, still adjusting to the idea of sharing a room with a complete stranger. I, on the other hand, was blissfully unaware of his anxiety and had drifted off to sleep about an hour after we settled in. That's when it happened. I suddenly sat up in bed, a slow, eerie rotation of my head toward my roommate, and then the most blood-curdling shriek you could imagine, as if I were summoning the spirits of the night. It lasted for just a few seconds, but to him, it must have felt like an eternity. After my spectral outburst, I flopped back down onto my pillow and fell into silence, just as abruptly as it had all started. I moved into a cozy two-bedroom apartment after bidding farewell to the dormitory life. My roommate at the time was an acquaintance I'd known for a few years, and everything seemed promising initially. The first 2 months of our cohabitation were smooth sailing, but the following 3 turned into an absolute nightmare. As time passed, she began returning home late at night, thoroughly inebriated, while I, a diligent student, had to rise early for my morning classes. Her late-night escapades gradually evolved into something more sinister. One fateful day, I walked in on her snorting a white powder off the kitchen counter, a sight that left me in shock and disbelief. From that point onward, her behavior took a nosedive. She'd vanish for days, leaving her unfortunate dog locked inside the bathroom, which doubled as its makeshift prison. The poor pup had no choice but to relieve itself on the bathroom floor, and the resulting mess was a nauseating sight. I'd occasionally slide dog food under the door when I heard its whimpering and tried to pour water in, but my access was limited, given that I didn't have a key to her bathroom. In addition to her reckless actions, she displayed a blatant disregard for my personal space. She never purchased her own groceries, and instead helped herself to mine, carelessly leaving dirty dishes to pile up in the sink. Her string of random male visitors became increasingly concerning, especially during her prolonged absences. One day, I discovered that one of her guests had stolen a dress from my wardrobe, a garment worth a small fortune. When I confronted her about the theft, she spun a web of lies, claiming her friend had borrowed it for a photo shoot, had it dry cleaned, and would return it soon. Needless to say, the dress never reappeared, and I had to resort to changing the doorknob on my bedroom door to one with a lock. The situation escalated to unimaginable levels when, at around the 4-month mark, I returned home to a broken bedroom door and found her physically abusing my defenseless dog inside my room. She audaciously claimed that my dog's barking had driven her to such cruelty, yet I knew her story was a fabrication. My dog had never been a noisy pet and had grown wary of her long before her violent outburst, presumably because she had mistreated him before. In the day leading up to her sudden departure, she gave no notice and intended to slip away without paying rent. Her negligence as a pet owner also became evident, as her dog had brought home a horde of fleas from his outings to the doggy daycare, which essentially meant she dropped him off at the local dog park and left him there for the day. This infestation left me grappling with an apartment full of fleas and a dog in dire need of treatment. I took matters into my own hands, resorting to bug bombs and extensive cleaning efforts, but the infestation still posed a significant problem. I remained transparent with my office manager throughout this ordeal, informing them about the damage to the apartment, including the need for new carpeting, repainting the living room walls, thanks to her dog's artistic endeavors, with black puff paint, and addressing the substantial hole her dog had dug in the bathroom wall. The repercussions of those tumultuous months lingered long after her abrupt departure.